Hello and welcome to GDA Conversations. GDA is Gulf Downstream Association. It's a non-profit association established by Saudi Aramco, Abu Dhabi National Oil Company, Bahrain Petroleum National Company, Kuwait National Petroleum Company, and Kuwait Petroleum International. Our main objective is to create a platform where all the players of downstream industry can share their knowledge and experience. GDA Conversations is a series in which we talk to the industry leaders and subject matter experts. My guest today is a veteran in the field of project management and is a subject matter expert in our one of the 9 technical committees called Project Management Technical Committee. His name is Mohammed Hammad. Mohammed Hammad has spent 34 years in Saudi Aramco managing mega projects, and he is now the executive director with Jacobs ZATE Engineering Company. He is also the board member with the local chapter of Project Management Institute. And today he is going to talk about major lessons learned and best practices which can be applied for a world-class refinery project. So without further ado, let me welcome Mohammed Hammad.
Good evening, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. And thank you, Raj, for the introduction. It's a pleasure and an honor to be a guest of GDA sessions here today, sharing my 2 cents of knowledge and project management experience. And let me move on to sharing my screen, my presentation today with you. All right, so the presentation today is called Building a World-Class Refinery, Strategies That Works. And this is actually a real-life experience on my last project that I had the honor of doing in 2014. That's when the project was completed. And today, this is the agenda. I'm going to be talking what was the project, a little bit description of the project itself without giving any detailed information, how we executed it, the main project management execution methodologies and organizations, and then ending with the fruits of what strategies that worked for us. And of course, anybody working in projects, there are always challenges every day, and what were the major ones we faced and how we were able to overcome them. Moving along, so the project itself, and I'll give you a snapshot of some pictures here. These are not the end product, but you can see the different elements of vessels and equipment that were being installed. The project itself was a 400,000 barrels Arabian heavy full conversion refinery. And you can see the different products. So the Arabian heavy crude is transformed into all the series of product you see. There is no fuel oil. And at the bottom, you can see the ranking. And Solomon benchmark is a reference for refinery complexity in terms of the conversion and also the number of units. And the refinery we built was ranked number 7 in complexity, just to tell you how complex it was. The key milestones that we've gone through, starting with the FEED execution, and you can see it took almost 2 years, the best part of 2 years. And this is one major lesson for everybody. To do a project, especially when we're talking about multi-billion-dollar investment, take your time in the FEED. Don't rush it. This is where all the success of the proper planning, the scoping, and all the major decision making in the FEED. And this is where you can save money in value added and coming up with the optimum design. Trying to rush FEED in the early phase of the project is a major, major mistake for anybody. Okay, people will say, why are you taking too long in engineering? Well, because it affects the rest of the project. Then the EPC phase started in July 2009, and we're talking about multiple phase EPC. You can see at the bottom the different contractors and the different locations. We had a total of 13 EPC packages in that refinery project. And the teams have moved to all these different locations: Korea, Italy, Spain, Singapore. Of course, several packages were done in Saudi Arabia. We had a team in Japan. So the first 1 year of the job, my life was spent in a suitcase traveling between all of these locations. And then we reached 50% of project construction completion in 2011. To start our commissioning phase, we had to import diesel and sales gas, and that happened in March 2012. And Alhamdulillah, the refinery was fully on stream by December 2013. The strategies that work for us, that's why we're here today. The description of the refinery itself is not of significance, because the strategies I'm trying to discuss with you tonight is applicable to any major project. Number one is oversight by the board of directors and project steering committee. You need a board of directors that is involved, that is given the right environment, the right spirit, the right collaboration among the board of directors. And sometimes people will say, why do we care about the board of directors? They're so far above or high above the project team. Well, if board directors are not aligned, then the project team members will not be aligned. Because in each major project, there are different stakeholders and they need to get aligned. And the only way for them to get aligned by having an aligned board behind the project. The second thing we had, which was very useful for us, is a project steering committee that is meeting with us on a monthly basis to give us the right direction and also support any decision making we are making. And believe me, you will be making some very hard decisions sometimes in the project, and without the support and focus behind you, you can get in a lot of trouble. The second point, the excellent feed package, and I've already covered that, but let me add one proverb from the Spanish culture. The proverb says that the tailor cutting clothing, he will measure 1,000 times, so he can cut only once. So do measure your project during the feed, define it well, and then you can execute the rest of it excellent format. Strong PMT resources. If you have a multi-billion-dollar investment, you need to have enough resources of competent, experienced, resourceful people to manage that investment. And we had 300 plus at the end of the job managing the project, and I'll share the organization chart with you. Alignment between PMT and operation. The PMT is basically building a facility for another client, which is the operation people, the proponent, we call them sometimes. And they have to be on board from day number one during the feed. Some people will say, why? Well, actually, they have to be, because they have to be an integral part of all the technical decision. And they have to buy in of all your strategies. So at the end, there are no major surprises and significant changes which can derail your project. Balance organization chart, push versus pull. And I'll explain this in a moment here. You can see on this organization chart, and I apologize if the colors are not easy to read, but you can see the project directory. Actually, there were two project directories. Project execution directory, myself, where I had all the project managers and the contractors under the execution directory. And then we had the project controls directory on the left-hand side, which was responsible for quality, safety, and contract administration. And this is what I meant push versus pull. The execution team is pushing. We want to get job done. We want to get progress. The safety, quality, and contract is pulling us to make sure we are doing it right, safely, and quality. And that is the balance. You cannot have all. You need to have that check and balance between the two sides of the equation. Otherwise, you're going to have the execution team pushing too much ahead and not giving the enough resources and focus to the quality and safety, perhaps, or governance. Okay, moving along. EPC selection. So we had to go through pre-qualification and selection of all the EPCs. They have to, and it was really a team decisions. We visited with these contractors, verified, making sure that they are capable and financially stable, capable, are not overloaded at the time. And secondly, we even got into the decision making of the EPC. The EPC will select the construction subcontractor, and sometimes proponent will say, well, that's his decision, I don't want to get involved. No, you need to get involved, because EPC can make the wrong decision, and he may select on commercial basis alone, and then at the end of the day, the construction subcontractor or major subcontractor are key element of success. So you have to be involved. It's your contractual right. And one thing we've enforced on all the major packages is to have two major construction subcontractors, not only one. You always have two horses in a carriage. Huh? So if one is failing, you have the second one moving on. The second strategy, and you can see we're focusing here on the EPC phase because that's really your major role. We got the CEOs of all the EPCs, not just the major, involved in the project. From day number one, we had quarterly review with them, make sure that they stand behind their project team, make sure that they are supporting their team financially and making all the hard decisions. And that's something that we recommend to all major investment, because the contractor management want to listen. Do you see that this project is important to you at CO level? Or no, this is just another project for you. And then study the market. When are you bidding your EPC phase? Huh? Because as we all know, the market goes into cycles. One day it's a client market. A few years down the road, it will be a contractor market. And believe me, there is a big, huge in the cost of the project, depending on when are you entering. Of course, material prices play a major role at the same time. Another tool we used, we developed, this was back in 2009, 2010, created our own dashboards. And dashboards are very useful tools. This is just an example where you can see the different elements during the construction phase. We looked at engineering, which has been completed at the time. We look at construction and construction even elements, how much concrete, structural steel, how many rebars, how many piping being done. You measure all this and on a monthly basis. And you look at your commissioning and you look at your manpower. And the beauty of dashboard that they can adapt. It's basically Excel sheets, and you can change them. You can add metrics, you can take out metrics. You can tailor it to engineering phase, and then to material procurement, and then to commissioning and startup. It's a beautiful tool and very easy to do. The ICAPS, which stands for Integrated Commissioning and Process Startup phase of the work. This is very sophisticated system that brings in all of your commissioning phases and pre-commissioning, the execution come, and because you need to go not just into the regular mechanical completion, you're gonna need to go into ready for startup and then actual startup, and making sure that there is a good overlap between finishing the construction, the pre-commissioning phase, the hydro testing, the loop checks, the wiring done properly, all this, and then introducing the commissioning and startup. And don't forget, you have like I said, we had 13 contractors. I'm trying to bring all of these, and each one of them is only responsible for his own plot, his area, his unit, number of units. So bringing all of these, if you look at the fire water system, it brings in 10 different contractors, and each one will have his own piece only of the network. And then you talk about gas, you're talking about hydrocarbons. All of this has to be well integrated. And that's why you need the ICAPs to bring them all together. Okay, so now we move to some of the challenges. And I like to start with a phrase called AFA, always. AFA stands for always flexible and adaptable. We live in projects world, we live in a Murphy's Law. You know what Murphy's Law is? If it can go wrong, it will go wrong. Yes, nothing goes the way you want it to be. It's always gonna have challenges, and you have to be flexible and adaptable. And you cannot say, well, this is the way we used to do it, and this is the way we planned it. Well, you need to change. You need to roll with the punches. Okay, so this is one key challenge for you to stay flexible and adaptable. I talked about safe commissioning and turning from brownfield, greenfield to brownfield. You'll have units up and running, starting introducing gas and crude and live, while other units in the plant are not still up, and you have thousands of people on the site. How can you keep that to safe? Well, by lock out, tag out, make sure that all your electrical system have proper lock and tag. You have startup operation, the CMOPs and the hazard. You have keep doing hazard for every step as you go along. So this is one challenge. And by the way, if you don't address it right, you can have major catastrophe on your side. The second thing, and when this is typical, is mitigating the poor performance of some of the EPCs. Some of them will fail you. Listen, this is going to happen. Some will do work, good job. Some will not do a good job. And you need to be able to get involved. They're going to have financial difficulties. At the time, we had the 2009 financial crisis, and it did impact our EPCs' financial capabilities. And they struggle at the end in investing the right resources to meet the deadline. And that's where we intervened. We brought in additional resources, and we had to take the lead of the job and get it done. LSTK versus LSBB. Some packages can be done as an LSTK, lump turnkey. You give him the engineering procurement because it's a standalone unit, and he's capable, he's done it. Some units or packages are no. It's too intertwined. There's a lot of unknown. It's a lot of brownfield, and maybe the contractor is not quite experienced and capable. In that area, you go, in this case, you better go to LSBB, lump sum procure build, meaning you finish the detail engineering, you may buy the major equipment, and then let them do the construction only. And this is very advisable to a lot of the brownfield, and especially in existing refineries, existing plants. Don't try to give lump sum and turn the headache over to the contractor. I know that's what some PMT would like to think. No, throw the risk on the contractor. Well, it's going to be your problem later, and you're going to be suffering with him later on. Of course, the subcontractor performance, equipment delays. You need to be visiting those vendors and tell them how important the job is to make sure that your equipment and material are alive on time. Another aspect, moving on to third-party interface. You're not building this major investment in your own backyard. You're typically building it outside in a major industrial development. And you need to have a lot of interface with all the different authorities, whether it's port, whether it's the community around you. You're going to be trucking major equipment along roads. This needs a lot of coordination. And we employed our own interface team with a project manager dedicated to third-party interface, where he can coordinate the timing, the scheduling, getting the right permitting for your work to be done. labor productivity. And that's really one of the agony I've gone through. Unfortunately, in the Middle East, we suffer from the productivity of low quality, and especially I'm talking about the construction phase. And you typically, for 1 hour of productivity in Western and North American contractors, we spend 3 to 4 times the hours, because we import a lot of low paid laborers, and they do not have the same amount of set skills, and of course the resources behind them. And that's why you'll see that you plan, we thought we're going to end up with 30 to 50 million man hours. We went to 130 plus million construction man hours on the job. We had at the peak, we had close to 43,000 construction employees on the job. You're talking about a small village, and you have to manage them, trucking in morning and in and out and in a safe manner. So I'm hoping that over time, our EPC construction contractors will improve their productivity. And interface between contractors. I talked about interface with the third parties outside, but also among the 13 contractors, they all gonna tie in all the different systems, all their construction, and within the construction phase. We also had an interface management team with a detailed matrix, different tie-in points, detailed between. So contractor A is gonna bring the pipeline, the fuel gas pipeline to this point, with a flange or a control valve. You need to get down to that details. And contractor B will meet him on that point, and he will take it from other side of the flange. If you don't put that details in during your FEED and engineering phase, you're gonna come up and you'll have a gap in between them. Well, I thought you're gonna bring in the flange. No, I thought you're gonna put in the valve. Now trying to stop there and go get a 3,000 PSI valve off the shelf, you're not gonna happen. You're gonna take 2 to 3 months to get it, at least. So interface between the contractors. I guess this brings me to the end of my presentation. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot more to be talked about when you're building a major investment project, especially in the hydrocarbon field. However, this is the allocated time for me tonight. And again, thanks Raj, Hammad, and GDA for inviting me to speak to you tonight. Thank you, and I'll turn it over to Raj right now.
Before I open the floor for the Q&A, I would like to thank Mohammed for an excellent presentation, sharing your insight of the pain and agony you went through during this execution of the Megaproject. I'm reminded of an analogy of a music conductor who is trying to conduct a symphony of maybe 100 musicians with different instruments and different, so perhaps it is one of that. I have a question for you. Out of the total 24 hours you had every day, how much percentage of your time was going into collaboration and communication?
How much was put into communication?
Collaboration and communication. Because at your level, you said that you were managing so many different entities inside and outside. So I'm sure there were a lot of people you had to communicate and collaborate. What percentage of total time approximately you were spending?
I cannot come up with a percentage, but it's really, as a project manager or director, your major role is communicator and collaborator. It's a major role for you. But you bring up a good point. Teamwork is very important. Teamwork is very important. And when you have strong contractors and strong project managers, they're going to be colliding.
Right.
And unless you put effort in bringing them work together as a team, you're going to have friction.
Right.